It's great to be back with you again. I'm Dr. David Hawkins. I am with you from up in the mountains of Northwest Washington State. It's incredible that we can be gathering like this. We're going to be excited to hear where you all are from. You can see that I'm not alone. I am with
Hi.
colleague, my colleague, Dr. John Hudson. Dr. Hudson, where are you from?
I am, I live in Missouri. Many of you know that, but recently I've come up here to Washington State, and Dr. Hawkins and I have had a little bit of time. He's quite the pickleball player. So if he ever hooks you into playing, just know that he's pretty competitive.
Well, Dr. Hudson, it was really nice. Dr. Hudson came all the way over here, folks. Came all the way over here. We had a day on this past Saturday where we just had what we called it a mini summit. And we gathered to talk about all things pertaining to what we're going to be talking about with you today. Because this stuff about narcissism
Mm,
and actually today's topic, the vulnerable narcissist, it is confounding, everyone. It is confusing, it's confounding. And boy, don't think for a moment that Dr. Hudson and myself and our team that we've got it all figured. We don't have it all figured out. We're figuring it out, and we're going to
right.
share some things with you today that we are figuring it out. So, but let's just take a moment, Dr. Hudson. Let's acknowledge we got some folks someone's from Canada. Where else are you from? Type in, send a message to us. By the way, Dr. Hudson, how do they get a message to us? I think there's a place that you can click on the chat
Yeah, they can
and
they can click on the chat and tell us where they're from. And we got somebody from Maryland. Karen's showing in from there. And John, I'm glad you're here. Looks like you got a pop-up from talking about this subject recently. So it's good to have you with us. I got Mississippi. Wow. So coming in from all over, Dr. Hawkins. Florida.
okay.
That's the winner of the longest farther away, I guess. So there we go. But
All
yeah,
right.
so what we encourage is you chat, you're in the chat, you're telling us where you're from, but you're also, and I see a couple of questions starting to come in already. Send us your questions. We're here to answer your questions as much as we can. We have about 40 minutes live here, so please engage with us in that way. We really need to do that. So
All right. So, Dr. Hudson and everyone, again, we're so excited to be with you. I love this. I love interacting with you all about what you are seeing, what you are experiencing. So, we're going to give you some things to chew on, but then we want to hear from you. What do you see? What are you experiencing about the things that we're talking about? So again, today's topic is the vulnerable narcissist, the man behind the iron mask. And this vulnerable narcissism thing, my goodness, folks, I want to just, Dr. Hudson has got some questions and I'm going to answer them. This is my latest book, The Vulnerable Narcissist. But I'm telling you, folks, this topic answers a ton of
mm,
questions, a ton of questions, because you all are telling us, man alive, nobody gets it. Oh my goodness, I don't know how to explain this. Oh my goodness, it's so confounding, it's confusing, it doesn't quite match this, it doesn't quite match that, it doesn't match that. And I'll tell you what, after we go through some of the traits of the vulnerable narcissist, I think it's gonna enlighten you on some things and go, my goodness, maybe that's what we're talking about.
yeah. Exactly. And this is such an important discussion because there is so much confusion. And I really appreciate you saying, Dr. Hawkins, that we don't know everything. We're continuing to learn and learn more every week, almost every day. And so, yeah. So I have a question for you, Dr. Hawkins.
Okay.
Just
All
just kind
right.
of start. You've been in this business for quite a while, um, and I know you've done a lot of research to distinguish, but these terms are confusing. Somebody talks about, the grandiose narcissist, or the vulnerable narcissist, or the covert narcissist. What it's
Yeah.
confusing. Can you help us with that?
Yeah, it's incredibly confusing, Dr. Hudson. And I think a lot of folks think that there's just one kind of narcissist. That's all. Yeah, just he's, and by the way, we'll use the gender he most often. Could it be she? It could be. But for the sake of our discussion, I think by and large, we're going to end up using he. I hope nobody is put off by that. We understand, and we're doing more and more research on the female narcissist. But anyway, by and large, we think of narcissism as the grandiose narcissist, the man who walks into the room and he's bombastic, he is over the top, demands attention, he demands to be understood, he's demanding, demanding, demanding. And make no mistake about it, there is that kind of individual. But more often than not, Dr. Hudson, you can speak to this too, we're seeing, no, that doesn't really explain my husband. No, he's insecure in many ways. He's shy in many ways. He's withdrawn in many ways. And so it got us to exploring this idea of, well, is there something else? Is there another kind of narcissist? And Dr. Hudson, we will unpack, but I'm going to just quickly name some of the traits that we will be exploring. This is the vulnerable narcissist, which we see an abundance of, The majority, by the way, I want everybody to understand that the majority of the folks that end up coming to the Marriage Recovery Center, these women are married to men who have fragile self-esteem. They are hypersensitive to criticism. They have a constant need. The unifying theme, Dr. Hudson, is these men also need validation. Even the grandiose narcissist is insecure in some regard. They hate feeling shame and remorse. But this narcissist has a fragile sense of self-esteem, hypersensitive to criticism, overreacts to criticism, and quick little teaser, everyone. I just did a video yesterday on narcissistic rage, which is another piece of it. Oh, what's narcissistic rage, you ask? It is the man who has been rebuffed in some way, criticized in some insignificant way, but to him, he overreacts to it. All right. So again, the main themes for the vulnerable narcissist, the man behind the iron mask, is hypersensitive to criticism, a constant need for validation, a fragile sense of self-esteem. And we've got many other traits that I want to unpack, but we invite your questions, by the way, about all of that.
Oh, we just had an interesting question come in all the way from Northern Ireland, by the way. So,
Oh my, thank you.
Sky, if I can use your name. So I guess I just did. Everybody loves your husband. And so he's the life of the community. What does that mean? Why is it different at home? And is that crazy making that he's different at home? Dr. Hawkins.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Lundy Bancroft. Everybody, you all are familiar with Lundy Bancroft and his book, Why Does He Do That? But Lundy, and I kudos to Lundy Bancroft. He was the one who helped us understand that a narcissist, a grandiose narcissist, everybody knows he's a grandiose. I mean, like, everybody knows it. But the vulnerable narcissist, and by the way, I'm going to use another term, and that is this vulnerable narcissist, they are a covert narcissist, a covert narcissist. So the covert narcissist, then they are just as narcissistic in many ways, but what Lundy Bancroft told us is that there's only one person that's going to get dinged from the covert narcissist. The overt narcissist, everybody feels it. Everybody accommodates the repercussions of the overt grandiose narcissist, but only one person feels the brunt of the covert vulnerable narcissist. You all know who that is. It is the spouse. It's the spouse. So, and that's why we call it emotional abuse. That's why we call it covert emotional abuse. So make very clear. There's overt emotional abuse, overt narcissism, and there's covert narcissism. And again, that covert narcissism, this is just as destructive, Dr. Hudson. In some regards, I would say it's more destructive. It's more destructive because she gets the brunt of his moodiness. She gets the brunt of his emotional reactivity. She gets the brunt of, I mean, let's pause here for a moment, Dr. Hudson. Relationships are built on the premise of give and take. Yes. You can be real, you can be transparent, you can talk about what's happening in the time right now, in real time. I can give you feedback, you can give me feedback, we grow together, and the relationship evolves in a healthy way. But what happens if you're married to a vulnerable narcissist who has an insensitivity to any kind of feedback, who has a hypersensitivity to criticism? And so, what happens here? She brings a concern to him, and the concern is lost by his reaction. And then she reacts, and then he focuses on her reaction. And that becomes, look at you, you're losing your temper. Well, she has been shaken up like a can of Coke. All right. So anyway, this give and take that happens in a healthy relationship cannot happen in this relationship because of this fragile, childish self-esteem and their inability to tolerate any kind of criticism or feedback. And so the relationship can't grow. We just had someone write in and say, they make you feel invisible, unseen, unheard, uncared for, and they gaslight you. All true. They have such a need to self-protect that no feedback, no growth can really occur.
That is exactly right, and so we are seeing a lot of comments. Thank you for that. I want to acknowledge that we have a mixed audience here. We even have John who's coming here and saying, "What's going on? What is she telling me?" And it's great to have men joining us. So Dr. Hawkins, can you speak to that question? She's telling me these things, but I don't understand them. I don't know why this is happening. I don't know why I do this.
Well, remember, okay, so I've done a lot of talking, everyone. I've done a lot of writing and thinking and doing videos on this man who is this child. I write extensively about this childish man. And so this man is chronologically 50 years old, but emotionally, he's 6 years old. He hasn't developed emotional maturity, hasn't developed the capacity. I mean, look, Dr. Hudson, look what happens with fortunately, I've got grandchildren, and these 6-year-olds are going to grow to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I watch them mature. I watch them develop. What does that look like, everyone? That looks like developing the ability to tolerate frustration. Make a note of that, everyone. Tolerating frustration, tolerating distress, knowing how to self-soothe. They learn these things. Or we expect them to learn these things. We expect them to learn how to name their emotions and to talk about what they need in a healthy, productive way. Not so with the vulnerable narcissist who has failed to mature emotionally. They get their feelings hurt. They don't know how to talk about their hurt feelings. And so they either shut up or they blow up. And
Right.
both are incredibly destructive. When they shut up, they stonewall, they withdraw. And when they blow up, they are sarcastic and they're critical and they're dominating and
Mm,
they
yeah.
don't care what they say. And then they go out to work where they are polite and kind and caring. And no one sees these childlike qualities. So again, the vulnerable narcissist is an emotional child in many ways. So why do you see that? You're seeing someone, I have called this problem a problem of arrested development. So I think in many
Hmm.
ways, Dr. Hudson, what we have labeled as one kind of narcissism isn't one kind of narcissism. There's many kinds or several kinds, and the kind we're talking about today is the vulnerable narcissist. Emotional reactivity, a need for validation, a defensiveness. And I want to
Hmm.
camp here for just a moment. Dr. Hudson, I'm sure you see as much as I do. You're in our men's core program largely, and these men who are defensive, they don't just not tolerate criticism. They don't just do that, do they? They
No,
fire back with
that's
something
right.
assaultive and they DARVO, defend, attack, reverse victim, offend. So I'll pause there. Dr. Hudson, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean that is what we experience. What's interesting is there's the confusion part that we really want to spend some time talking about today, Dr. Hawkins, is there any help? What can be done? If this is my situation, if this is my husband that you just described to a T, and we're seeing that come in, that's exactly what I've been dealing with for 33 years, for 40 years, for however length of time. It, there is hope. Now, there's a huge difference between the grandiose narcissist who's never going to seek help and the covert or vulnerable narcissist who can be encouraged to come into our space and engage with help. But there's an interesting question that came up, Dr. Hawkins, that we should address. The question is this: is there any long-standing hope or for change? Or is this person who is seeking change going to be forever connected with us to sustain that change?
Yeah. So, Dr. Hudson, I mean, we're faced with this question literally every day. What is the level of hope? And everyone, you know that there's hopium, which is the false belief based upon no significant data, and you're just hoping, hopium. And there's realistic hope. And what we know, what we are learning, by the way, this is cutting edge stuff. We're just learning it now. So what do we look for, Dr. Hudson? We look for if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got. That is a maxim. It is true again and again and again. So
That's right.
please, everyone, don't do what you've always done, and we'll talk about that. But so we talk at length about the power of intervention. So we know with drug addiction, sexual addiction, alcohol addiction, gambling addiction, any kind of addiction, and I would say it fits with this arrested development, this man child. If there is an intervention, if there's enough of a threat of losing something important, and I know many of you will say, well, I'm not important to him. Well, I tell you what, what we see is when she leaves or threatens to leave, and she is as serious a heart attack, our phone rings off the hook. So just
That's right.
take that for what it's worth. So if there's an intervention, so the past is the best predictor of the future
Right.
unless there's been an intervention. So she
Absolutely.
leaves. I'm not telling her to leave, but when she leaves, if she threatens to leave, if there's a separation, our phone rings. Okay, then we're at the starting point. And Dr. Hudson, I'd actually like you to speak just for a moment or three about if a man will enter into our three-tiered men's core program. There's a men's core where they take
Hmm.
ownership, and you can speak to this, Dr. Hudson, where we look at taking ownership for harm done and really assessing where they have been and how they are acting and what they're like. and then they move into advanced core, where they learn more about healthy attachment and
That's
healthy
right.
understanding of their emotions and expressing of those emotions. And then they move into core strength. And all of this takes about a year. And then, as you well know, that these men will often do advanced core again, and then
Right.
do core strength again and again and again. And you all might say, really? Does it take a year or a year and a half or 2 years? And the answer is yes. And it looks like a jagged line: two forward, one back, two forward, one back, two forward, two back, two forward, one back, two forward, one back, three forward. And it's a jagged, but the trend line
That's right.
most often is positive. So, yeah, folks, if you want real hope, then we want to talk to you about intervention. We want you to, there's a book that Dr. Hudson and I wrote that is been received incredibly well. So you've been called a narcissist. Now what? And that will give you a deeper look into what treatment looks like. So I want to just mention that book again. So you've been called a narcissist. Now what? That will essentially walk you through all the different aspects of comprehensive men's core. And now we're adding women's core and couples core, and we've got a comprehensive healing pathway for those that want. But why don't you speak to men's core for just a moment, Dr. Hudson?
I would love to do that, Dr. Hawkins, but I must first talk about assessments.
Oh,
We,
yeah, thank you. Oh, very
you
good.
know, part of an intervention is helping a person understand where they really are and what's really going on. And so we are revamping that, the beginning of our connection, um, beefing up our assessment process to help men traditionally see what's really going on, to see their wife's perspective, but understand, well, they already know this. They already know it's not working. What they're doing is not
Mm,
healthy. They see that. They might be in denial, but they can see it. They can feel it, especially when she starts to stand up and gain her voice and say, "No more. This has to
no more.
change. Jim, John, this has to change. This is what I need." And we confront him with that with some very clear assessment tools. We use the NEAI, which is the Narcissism Emotional Abuse Inventory. We use a
Right.
very detailed demographic intake form. We have narrative interviews that are structured to elicit information from both the wife and the husband before we say, okay, Jim and John, this is what we see that you need to do. It's no longer optional. If you want to stay with your wife, if you want to nurture and not really nurture, but rebuild, I guess, reconnect, rebuild trust, then these are the steps you need to take. And so then we put them, we introduce them to the core program, the comprehensive core program, as you just mentioned, Dr. Hawkins. So the initial stage is core, and it's more about learning about yourself, learning about the reality of your situation, connecting those dots to say, okay, I now am beginning to really see and beginning to really understand the need for change and implementing change. The core program is 14 weeks long. What we want to help everybody understand is there's not going to be a miracle happening in
Right.
14
Right.
weeks. We're going to reset things. We're going to start to build a new foundation, which we will build on in advanced core, when they really learn about how to respond differently and no longer react, no longer be so hypersensitive to your feedback, your anything you bring to him, where he's more, at least
Yep.
a little more open and a little more open. I love that image you just gave of the jagged continual growth. But remember, we're talking typically about a client who's 50 years old, 50, 55 years old. And that's like charting an aircraft carrier. it's going to take time. Dr. Hawkins?
Yeah. So, Dr. Hudson, it's a great point. And so we haven't used the word yet, but we should use the word. And the word is denial. His denial and her denial. Oh, Dr. Hudson, did you say her denial? I had a woman the other day, Dr. Hudson, say this to me. I just can't believe that he acted like that again. I just can't believe it. And I can be a little bit sarcastic at times. I'm doing it to teach a point. And I said to this woman, what do you mean you can't believe it? What I don't understand what you're saying. Well, I just can't believe that he backslid like that. I said, well, I don't understand what you can't believe. This has been a long time in coming, and these are character traits. And I'm not surprised at all that this is happening again. So those of you, and by the way, you can send me your comments on this. So I want her to, and Dr. Hudson, perfectly, when you talk about, we do an accurate, in-depth assessment. And in that assessment, we end up saying to her, look, there's trouble here. I mean, we all know it, but here's what the trouble looks like. These are probably characterological patterns, meaning they're in-depth, ingrained, arrested development patterns. And so all of you need to understand this is a longer term prospect, and we're here for you, but boy, fasten your seatbelt. There's a caller, by the way, Dr. Hudson, who said, how do you get them to help when they are so offended by the word narcissist or abuse? Great question. I'm gonna tackle that. We have sort of an informal policy at the Marriage Recovery Center. We're not going to beat someone over the head with the word narcissist. However, we don't shy away from it either. Right. Abuse is abuse is abuse is abuse. So if it's a pattern of behavior that uses power and control to diminish another person, this isn't a one-off. It's a pattern of withdrawing. It's a pattern of talking over. It's a pattern of outbursts when criticized. If it's a pattern of behavior, then we need to use the word abuse. And like our book said, so you've been called a narcissist. Now what? We could have written it, Dr. Hudson, and said, so you've been called a narcissist. So what? So what? Get over it. Let's get on with the task of growth.
That's right.
And yes, this caller says, or this writer says, I mean, how do we get them to look at the book? It's going to take an intervention, and it's going to be, look, read the book, get into their men's core program, or I'm going to pull apart from you, and that is what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to leave you. I don't know, but I'm going to pull apart from you, and you're going to feel it. So you decide what we're going to do here. Do we cinch up and respectfully address these issues of arrested development, childish behavior, need for validation, emotional reactivity, hypersensitivity to criticism, fragile self-esteem? All of those issues need to be addressed. We can address them, and it will get you both to where it may get you both to where you want to go. But if you don't, somebody wrote a book, Dr. Hudson. I haven't read it, but I think the book was something like this. This is how your marriage ends.
Yeah.
This is how your marriage ends. It's going to end. So don't kid yourself now. The relationship will die. That's what will, okay. Anyway, I'm off on a bit of a tangent. So you get the book, you insist that they read the book, you insist that they enter the program, and there have to be consequences. And yeah, that's what needs to happen.
So the follow-on question, Dr. Hawkins, is this, that we're hearing, that we're seeing here. There are other factors that contribute to this behavior that he uses to explain away what he's doing. And I know you and I have talked about this extensively, and we do throughout the team at the Marriage Recovery Center. I'm not going to call him a narcissist. I'm not going to call him an emotional abuser until he can see and receive that word. But I will show him traits. I will show him, and we will talk about these characteristics and whether they show up in him or in his relationship. And almost always, Dr. Hawkins, I know this is my experience and likely to be yours as well. He will say, yeah, she does that. She does that. And so the conversation that we dovetail to easily there is, where did that come from? Where did she learn that? Can you speak to that, Dr. Hawkins?
I'm not sure your question, Dr. Hudson. What can I speak to? What?
When he sees her as the perpetrator, as the
Sure.
problem, and he points out a particular characteristic that we've talked about and says, he says that she does that.
Sure.
How do you respond to that, Dr. Hawkins?
Yeah, Dr. Hudson, this is such a critical topic for everyone. And I would like people to weigh in on it. And it is, pause with me, everyone, and think about this for a minute. Traditional counseling says it's a two-way street. It takes two to tango. Problems are co-equally created. They're co-equally resolved. It's a two-way street. It takes two to tango. And if you go to a traditional counselor, they'll say, hey, look, you both contribute. That's all it is here. It's just two people struggling to interact, and it's a communication problem. And the problem gets worse. And I know we're going to get emails about this, Dr. Hudson, because it's not always a two-way street. And I speak at length about this, and so do you, Dr. Hudson. There is I use the analogy of triage. You know, there's an order to how things should unfold. It can become a two-way street in counseling at some point in time. Not now, not if there's emotional abuse. So it takes a keen and experienced therapist. And you're looking at two of them right now, if I do say so ourselves, Dr. Hudson and myself, and we have an entire team that see that, wait a minute, no, it didn't take two to tango, that actually he was dismissive. She was unseen, unheard, unknown. Did she become a different version of herself than she used to be? Yes. Has she learned to use four-letter words as well? Maybe. And so now when they come to us, Dr. Hudson, he has learned, he may read the book and then weaponize the information and use it against her. You're the narcissist. You're the one. See. And of course, that is not at all how we counsel. And that kind of blame shifting is indicative of this emotionally immature, covert, vulnerable narcissist, where for the first 14 weeks, folks, the motto of the first 14 weeks is, it's about you, sir. It's about you, sir. It's about you, sir. It's about you, sir. That's all we say. Yeah, but it's about you, sir. Yeah, but it's about you, sir.
Right.
Yeah, but wait a minute. I can see that it's about you, sir. We're going to take care of your side of the street. And then what's left when we make sure that we have unwrapped and unfolded and taken away any emotionally abusive traits in you, then we'll see what's left over. Speak to that for a moment, Dr. Hudson, because you're our lead therapist in our men's core program.
So you're exactly right. And we do a really good job of squelching that deflection in the first few weeks of core, when the guy's turning in assignments and he's writing about the problems that she presents and says, nope, wrong answer. What are you doing to show up differently? What have you done to really destroy your marriage, to destroy her? And when he's confronted with that and he has to answer that question only,
Yeah.
not about her side of the street, stay in your realm, what you can change, what you can control, and get away from talking about everybody else, because he'll extrapolate that to even the other people, or he'll say, oh, I'm just that way because my dad was that way, or my mom was that way. Well, she already
Yeah.
knows that, right? But the key is then to bring him back to, we're talking about you. We're talking about how you are and how you show up or how you don't show up, and addressing that. There's an interesting question that's the theme that's coming up now, Dr. Hawkins, in our chat here, is about traditional counseling. And you just touched on this for just a second. So I'll start this conversation, but I'd like you to pile on here. I'll sum it up this way. Traditional counseling with anybody who has narcissistic traits, or where emotional abuse it is part of your past or current state, is unfruitful. It does not work. You disagree or agree with me, Dr. Hawkins?
Totally agree, because traditional counseling, and I'm trained in traditional counseling. You are too, and I look back and go, "Oh my word, Dr. Hawkins, what have you done in years past?" Because a couple comes in the door, so to speak, and I just assume it's a two-way street. It takes two, and is it 50? Maybe it's 55-45, maybe it's 60-40, but it's two people doing destructive things. More and more and more, I recognize, no, that's not what has happened. She has, by and large, tried to get his attention. She has been over functioning. Yes,
Right.
you all, anybody that's counseled with me, you've heard that word. You have learned to over function. He has under functioned. We had someone write in and say they feel invisible, unknown, unheard. By the way, every referral that we get says that. Every woman
That's
says,
right.
I'm exhausted from trying to make an impact. And so traditional counseling reinforces those unhealthy dynamics. And so you can see by the sheer force of our character, the strength of our character, we make no bones about it. We're going to confront these men. These patterns, everyone, these patterns of fragile self-esteem, vulnerability, hypersensitivity to criticism, we have to take these men on again and again and again and again. And they don't like Dr. Hudson. They love me, but they don't like him.
Well, thanks a
Not
lot,
true,
Dr.
everyone.
Hawkins. Yeah.
Not. Everybody knows I'm kidding, because we have so many men that become angry with us, like, you're just making it all about the man. You guys are
Mm,
so biased. All you do is confront and pick on men, and you're making money. Okay, you can think that, everyone, or you can think, wait a minute, we're seeing something. We're seeing he has largely created her feeling unseen, unknown, unheard. She overfunctions. She
okay.
becomes more critical, yes, but she's trying to make an impact. What she's asking for is reasonable. All right, back to the point. Traditional counseling, everyone, don't do it. Don't do it. And if you would like us to do an assessment, as Dr. Hudson said, we are available to do a thorough assessment to find out what exactly is going on. And then we give you a treatment plan, and we say, look, if you want real change, it's going to take this, and it is not an easy path.
Yeah. There are so many questions rolling in here. I love this conversation. I wish we had more time today, Dr. Hawkins, but the one of the things, there's one more. I know we have very little time left, and you can dovetail into closing, but what if he doesn't respond to an intervention? What if he won't read the book? He won't watch a podcast. He won't,
Yeah.
he won't, he won't.
Yeah. The answer, everyone, is a simple answer, and it's not an easy answer, but it's simple and straightforward. And it's the same with drug addiction, alcohol addiction, sexual addiction, gambling addiction, any eating. It's the same. There has to be some intervention. The intervention needs to be heightened, needs to be more strategic. We would be happy to talk to you about that. We've done a lot of thinking about what an intervention does. We even brought on Ernest Hart. We brought on an intervention specialist who talks about bringing the family to bear in creating an intervention. So
That's right.
Know that we are willing to come alongside of you. None of this stuff is easy. None of it is simple. It is so incredibly complicated. And for that, again, we would say, be careful on the kind of counseling that you get. And please consider Dr. Hudson's invitation that we would do an in-depth assessment of your situation. And maybe it would be just with an individual to start. We would help you kind of understand what are the dynamics that are going on. All right. You want to talk about how they can get a hold of us, Dr. Hudson, and what they can do regarding subscribing to our newsletter and what we're going to be doing next time.
So next time we'll pick up some of these questions that were presented today. I know we're going to continue the conversation, but one of the questions that comes up often is, "Am I crazy and should I stay?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
Loving and staying with a narcissist. So such a difficult question to ask and answer. So we'll be talking about that next time. Of course, you want to be able to go to our website, subscribe to our newsletter, check it out, www.marriagerecoverycenter.com. Ask your questions, get in touch, send us your questions. And yeah, we're excited about the work. We know it's kind of a weird thing to be excited, but we see the opportunity. We see the
That's right.
opportunity to change lives. And we're very serious about that. Someone asked about, your wait list is too long. Well, we just brought 2 new people on. Maybe we can talk more about that a little bit later on
Happy
when
to
we meet
talk to you.
again. But we want to serve you. We want to promote the care that you need.
And click on you go to our website, everyone, to see information about when the book, The Vulnerable Narcissist, is going to be out, because that's an exciting thing and we want you to know about it. But you got to go to our website. Dr. Hudson, thank you.
Yeah. Next
I think everybody can
Livestream.
tell that we're excited about this work, and we care about all of you. Thank you for tuning into this. Tell your friends about it. I think it can be restreamed. I don't know about all that, but anyway, there'll be a way to pass it along to friends.
And we'll see you August 11th, next live stream.
August 11th. Take care, everyone.